Hello, my friends. I know this isn't my normal Helldivers 2 video, but I do play Space Engineers, my friends, and I just wanted to show off some of the vehicles I make. Now, all of these vehicles shown here are a part of the Texas Space Service collection I have on Steam, the Steam Workshop, and we have, starting off smallest to largest, is we've got the Locust Fighter. This fighter was my first attempt at making something as compact and small as possible that can still pack a punch. So player character right next to it, you can't pilot it, but it can definitely outclass a blue fighter. And then didn't like the design of it, so I went back to the drawing board and I actually built the Condor next. After the Condor, I'm like, I like that style, so this right here is currently just called Microfighter, but I will be renaming it to the Tumbleweed Microfighter. It does literally everything a Locust can, but I've equipped it with non-reloadable rocket launchers. That way it can get a strong first strike before it goes out. It's got 2 hydrogen tanks, giving it a limited fuel time, but if you know anything about Space Engineers combat, once you deploy a fighter, you're hardly ever going to get it back. So while these two have a 100% loss rate, I went with oxygen generator on the Condor. This makes it so that the Condor has at least an 80% loss rate, but at least 10, maybe 5% to come back. And that can be definitely monumental in terms of not needing to manufacture additional Condors. The Condors are actually the only one that are currently set up for manufacturing. That's what this factory here is. What this factory does is it literally just connects everything together on the back of the welders, but this factory is fully capable of producing an entire Condor on its own. And to demonstrate that, I'll just throw a battery on there, and I'll push one button. That is to turn the welders on. Oh wait, yeah, I got timer blocks on this, my bad. It's button 2. Oh. If we continue on down the line, we have the Vesp fighter. The Vesp is an upgraded Locust, and the Condor is actually the precursor to the Microfighter. In terms of size, it is Locust, Microfighter, Condor, and then Vesp. But the Vesp has 4 autocannons and 2 warfare guns. It's just meant to deal heavy damage to fighters. It could probably take. You could just slap a cockpit on the front if you wanted to at the end of the day, but it's still just more effective to have it as its own thing. Now, finally, we're over here to the Texas Space Service's ground forces, and that's going to be the carryall. This carryall here is just meant for lugging things around. It's got a couple mag plates in the back here, got a landing gear system here, but it's also got additional mag plates right here. Not in the most optimal position, but if you need to get something picked up, you need to get something picked up. Overall, it pretty much just serves the same function you would with a Halo Pelican, but it's also got a small interior. It's got a little weapon script, but just for making sure everything was conveyored up, I didn't include a entrance for the cockpit. You do have to get in from the outside, which kind of sucks, but I mean, it's still got quite a lot of firepower. Now, that said, we're now moving into the actual proper Texas Space Service outside of what the ground service is and the microfighters. This is going to be the gunship. So the gunship is more similar to just a standard Corvette than a gunship, but it does have decent firepower. 3, maybe 4, yeah, 4 different assault cannons, and at least 4 Gatling cannons. So overall, it has solid defense. And even if you get this close, you're still in line of sight of that Gatling gun. Got a survival kit on here, and a helm. This is mostly utilitarian. It's also meant to be docked commonly, so it's not really meant to go off on its own. It serves its role. It's also called the Bobcat. That's what this gunship is called. It is the Bobcat. I believe. Yep, the Bobcat. Then we've got the Camilla. Now the Camilla is interesting because it can fit anything smaller than a locust in here. So we'll start the tour with the hangar. It's got two standard connectors. You can replace those for inset connectors, but it can store two fighters in here. It's got a hydrogen engine, it's got a reactor, got a gravity generator, got a little air vent too to make sure you get that pressurization. And you just go upstairs, you get a nice little view here. Now the purpose of the Camilla is going to be more extended range instead of more of Corvette, just Corvette Plus. But on this side you've got a food processor. On the other side of the ship, on the stairs, you do have a survival kit. So, I believe, yes, that is a survival kit. Now, in the middle here, across the way, we can start at the back, have a little nice little apartment here on both sides. So we do take care of our crew with the Texas Space Service as much as we're allowed. And there's going to be two apartments here, one on either side. This allows people to actually live a decent life, even aboard a Texas Space Service ship. Now, on the back here, we do have our rear airlock, but we also have another viewing deck. We take the opinion at the Texas Space Service that if you have enough pretty visuals, it makes you happier, and a happy Texas Space Service personnel is a deadly one. So, once we finally get to the bridge, we have an awesome bridge here. Got several button panels, got a helm up top, and got another helm right here. And we've got our programmable blocks too, so this is a very versatile ship. It also comes equipped with two algae farms, which allow basic sustenance, but ideally it is pretty ideal to resupply it commonly. It does run ion too. It does have hydrogen and oxygen tanks. The hydrogen tanks are merely meant to refuel any docked fighters a part of the Texas Space Service. Does also have an antenna and an ore detector. The ore detector allows you to just scout out asteroids, and if you do end up building a compatible little micro drone that can mine, it allows you to utilize this hangar space as just an intermediary. Of course, there's nothing to ever stop you from just going out right here in the front, extending it out, add a couple drills, and you're good to go. It's a very versatile ship for the Texas Space Service, and it's often modified, but the base variant is pretty much just a yellow boat. Now, creatively, we're going to start where the entirety of the Texas Space Service came to be. This is going to be the Fredericksburg little Corvette here, is the first ship ever built by the Texas Space Service. Its whole point is to engage in combat and resupply. This isn't extended range or anything. It's like the Bobcat. It's meant to take out a target and return back to base. Now, it does have enough to go strike an enemy base and come back in terms of hydrogen tanks. But you might be asking, where's the hydrogen tanks? There's so much armor here, and it doesn't look like you can fit it anywhere. That's the neat part. You don't fit it in the armor, you fit it in an internal conveyor exoskeleton with small hydrogen tanks. And going into the ship, we've got a nice little armory here just to allow you to arm up before you leave. But it is very red in here. When we do have the ability, we do try to treat our personnel properly. But this is a combat ship, so most of the accommodations are sparse. We do have a bed here if you do need rest or any medical attention. And we do have another armory here. Now if we go through here, we're going to be going into the main meat and guts of the ship. You notice there is a liberal use of conveyors. This allows practically, even if you disable its movement and all of its internal, it is still able to fight. It is still a threat persistently. It does use nuclear, 2 survival kits, some air vents, and as you can start to see, this is where we start to store all the hydrogen tanks, is in these long corridors where we don't need additional connections. We've got this all over the ship. Now there is also a front of the ship. Like I said, it's a very small ship. It does have a viewing deck down here, but it's also got couple beds. So overall, it is a decent ship to go ahead and attack something and come back. So on its own objectives, it does good. It is a very sparse bridge, but like I said, able to do what you need to do. It's not meant to have any extra flips, flares, or anything. It's to go attack and come back. Now, we classify this as a frigate, and that's purely based on firepower. If we were to classify it on role, it is going to act a lot like a corvette. Now, we do have the next size up, and this is still technically frigates. All of three of these are our frigates. Was built out of the hangar blueprints we do have. So we just strapped a bunch of them and then built from there. But starting off, we're going to start at the bridge here, or one of the bridges. The front bridge. The bridge. So, the front bridge is better anyway, because you get to see more. But on this top section here, you got 3 different helms, and you got an awesome visual here. Like, absolutely gorgeous. And you can get a pretty good look all the way around. Now, the neat thing about this bridge is that you can go down a floor, and you get the underside of the bridge too. So if you want to pilot it from underneath, you can do that too. It's very nice. Now, we can slowly start to walk back, and we're going to be on the bottom floor because on the top floor there's not really much you can do up there other than open and close a door. But we do have the little hangar bay here. And this hangar bay is only 5 by 4. As you can see, it's a 5 by 4 area, and it's phenomenal for what it does. Now we can keep going back down through here. It's a very simple design. Very long, but it can deploy up to 12 fighters into combat at once. And that's not counting any that you just hit on the outside there. Now we do have assemblers on either side. We also have 2 refineries on the underside. A lot of it is just to maintain our ability to manufacture things and resupply fighters. Now we do also have another little viewing deck with extra stuff there. And if we actually go into the main bridge area here, we do have the ability to see another bridge. I know that sounds pretty obvious, but it gives you another bridge to command and fight things from. There is a shitter, but at the moment on the drone carrier, it is like the Fredericksburg. It's meant to go attack and come back. So long-term capacity is very limited. There is a rest and recovery area, and we do have a state-of-the-art little medical facility back here that comes complete with kitchens and bar. But in terms of beds and stuff like that, those have not yet been included. We are definitely looking into those for our retrofits. You do have a nice little food processor, but we don't have any food production on ship. Now, we do have a little lab vent, a little cryo chamber for people. Get a shower in, and there you go. We do also have 2 jump drives on this ship, by the way. It's very nice. Now, I believe the reason we don't have any oxygen is the gates. So if I close all my gates, it should allow us to get oxygenated again. If not, then I'll have to look at the design again, but you know what I can also do? Is I can go to the doors, open, close. And that should solve some of, yep, it absolutely does. So this place is fully oxygenated as long as you maintain proper door closing and stuff like that. That is going to be our Rio Grande drone carrier. Of course, you can just walk through, see what fighters you got, and you can go down there and launch them manually before a fight. That way you use a specific number of fighters instead of your whole complement. But you can jump up here, get over here, there you go. It's going to be our front door. Now, we do have we used to have the Lukenbach. I have since upgraded it a little bit with some of the hangers. It's not that it needed it, so to speak, because you could slap a fighter on the edge here. But the slam fighters, the condors, that I keep talking about over here, have a self-destruct feature to help with server cleanup because you don't want all that garbage just floating around. So they do have a self-destruct feature. It only activates about 25% of the time due to damage, but regardless, there are 6 hangers, 4 on the sides, 1 up top, and 1 down below. Each of these hangers can fit a condor or anything that is, the gate size. So you could definitely fit a miner in there. That way you don't have to store a miner on the outside, have that risk exploding. Now, I didn't go over the weapons armament on the Rio Grande. It does have a significant weapons armament, but it is all light armor. If you put a Rio Grande versus a Bandera in combat, the Bandera will win 10 times out of 10. And the reason for that is it's got 5 artillery cannons up top on this side and 4 below. Now the Lukenbach had 5 and 5, but we had to make some space for some of the refineries and some of the additions in terms of capacity and stuff like that. Now, if we go up here, we do have a nice observation deck. Like we said, we like to keep our personnel happy at the Texas Space Service. There isn't any food production, but that may be a possible upgrade we'll look into. We do also have another command center at the bottom here. This CIC is just a backup one, just in case you lose the top side one. However, it is mostly capable of doing the same things. It's meant for your drone operators if you have people to actually control the drones, which will monumentally help you. We recognize that, and as I said, we do use a simple blueprint for our hangars. That way we can rapidly add them and stuff like that. And like I said, you can close them from the top. They're all really just the same hanger. But we do have a toilet near the main bridge. We've got an armory for our personnel. If we go up top to our main bridge on the Lukenbach, we do have an amazing bridge. We've got some AI controls here. We've also got some additional ones over here. And we've got our main control panel here. We're able to launch our fighters. We're able to convert the Bandera into AI mode, which converts the entire ship to fight for you while you do something else. And it's also got a toggle for the move block. So if you want to take back control, it's really quick to do, and you don't have to worry too terribly much about it. Now, I am going to close that door. And this door will lead to the same place we're about to go. So if we go down here and up to this side, we'll have another armory for our bridge. But we'll also have our top side hangar. Now we are debating turning this top side hangar into the factory for the little condors, but that is a possible upgrade we may look into. Now, like I said, it's got pretty much the same inside as the Fredericksburg because the Lukenbach and Bandera are modifications of Fredericksburg to just be more of a menace. So we'll still have our side little apartments here just to take care of our people. This also leads down to the CIC from earlier. If you climb up the ladder, make sure you don't fall. And go through here. We do scatter around parts just in case you do need a field repair. So this is where having additional personnel on the ship would be helpful to maintain the insides of the ship while it's under attack. And there's plenty of parts just on these racks to do so. As we get further back, you'll see more and more parts and enough space to weld everything. And we do have a shitter and a shower up front, but we also have additional beds up front too. So if we go up top here, we've got another 3. On the other side, we'll have another 3. You can see we got 6 railguns. Now, these railguns aren't as effective as a standard ship. The Bandera now has about 4 nuclear reactors and a ton of batteries. So the railguns are more so a last resort weapon, but they are definitely able to do a first strike and knock out some key critical items. Now, if we go through the corridor here, we'll see that our crew has a couch. Of course, you gotta have a couch. And we've got 3 additional beds. Now, do we use all these beds? Of course not. But if you have a Marine complement or any additional forces, it's useful to be able to allow them to get rest. Now, if we total up the amount of beds, we've got 6 on each side. That's going to be about 12 up front, so that's an entire squad. Now, if you want to be crazy about it, you can just have people sleep at different times. So you can store 2 squads up front, and on these sides here, this is mostly reserved for the actual proper crew. You can have a proper crew of 6 actually working on the station, so there's that too. Now, about these holes in these ladder hatches, we generally frown upon them. If the game would have allowed us, we'd put a hatch here. That is how we would do things. I believe that's almost the entire tour. There is one area of the ship we haven't mentioned. We are very big on being able to maintain ships mid-combat, so we do have a rear area here that is just able to look in the back here, go back down through here, and you're still able to maintain a lot of the ship. And there is the rear observation deck. It is glorious. And all of this is pressurized too. We do have lab doors that you can open that allow you to repair the little thrusters here. Just like I said, repairability features. Most ships don't have those. We like our observation decks, we like our repairability and maintainability. We like making people happy. And we're able to repair in situ all of these rear places. Now we do try to keep everything well oxygenated. There are maybe 1 or 2 areas you can't, but that's just limitations. Now, we do also have this area right here. This will allow you to weld the main thruster if you need to. You could just grind off the window. But we do have this window here, our main rear thrusters. Got multiple areas we can access a lot of our equipment. It's all part of the design, and it does contribute to PCU usage, but at the same time, I'd rather take care of some of the equipment. Now, that said, I believe that does it for our rear maintenance area, and of course you can see part of the factory as you're going back, but we do have another thing, I'm pretty sure. We still have armory lockers, all that. I know I mentioned that, but I believe that does it for the Lukenbach. The Lukenbach is, again, able to launch all of its fighters simultaneously. And the funny thing is, if you utilize the external magazines on the Lukenbach or the Fredericksburg, because that's what they are, these connectors are actually just magazines for your weapons. It'll allow you to store up to 15 or 16 different fighters within the Bandera. That'll allow you to just overwhelm the enemy. But simultaneously, the Bandera is much more of an expensive piece versus the Rio Grande. The Rio Grande can stay at range, it can fight, but again, the issue is, it's got a whole large fighter complement. So, talking about, the future, what I would do with the Texas Space Service is probably want to bridge this gap right here between our large and smaller ships, but at the same time, anything past these small fighters are going to get obliterated quickly. So it's not really worth it other than a lift vehicle like that one. The other way you'd probably want to go about it is by just upgrading into battleships. So we'd be going from a frigate to a destroyer, which probably would be about yay long. But I think that for any real practical server-based interactions here, the Bandera and below is pretty much everything that you need. And the neat thing about these microfighters too is if you grab one of these guys, you can practically slap them on any piece of armor here. So we take this little guy, just go ahead and remote control him real quick. We can just go ahead and slap him pretty nicely on top of this decoy, right? And what that allows us to do is it allows us to have 15 fighters, right? But if this guy launches with those fighters, that's going to be another 5 up top, another 5 on bottom. That's a total of 20 something fighters. And that's one of our key strengths is these fighters being able to be slapped anywhere and launched with a single code. Now, I do recommend if you do use our ships, that way you don't launch. You do have to pay mind to your programming on your drones whenever you rearm them, but other than that, it is definitely a fun experience. I know I do have another video on YouTube where you can see just 12 fighters coming out of 2 different drone carriers, and it's glorious. I've also done a fight between 2 banderas and a bunch of frigates where I've got a ton of fighters in the mix as well. So overall, it's just a fun experience just to use this little playset here. Now, most of the time, a lot of servers use build and repair, so building these isn't really an issue, but I can definitely look into some of the more auxiliary options like welding ships and stuff like that. What is it, a miner? Yeah. But I did want to show you guys that this does weld up pretty quickly. And ideally at this point, what you do is you would lock on, and if you're fueled up, you're ready to go. You unlock it, and with this little assembly here, what we can then do is we can convert it to factory launch and launch. So what factory launch does is it tells the fighter that, hey, I don't need my AI anymore after I launch. The fighters will always enable their AI after. But like I said, what this does is it disables the AI and it allows you to remote control it. So it is now completely remote controlled. Now, whenever you manufacture these fighters, they never have their, or paste in the slam fighter, it'll never have its inertia dampeners on, so you do have to be mindful of that. But other than that, they're definitely decent fighters.